Most people believe wealth comes from ownership. Owning a factory, owning a product, owning inventory, owning real estate. For centuries, that assumption was largely correct. But the digital economy introduced a new form of power, a business model so efficient that it often generates more wealth than the products themselves. The ability to control flow. Imagine a river. Thousands of ships travel across it every day. One company owns the ships, another owns the cargo, another owns the products being transported. But one entity owns something far more valuable, the channel itself. Every participant depends on it. Every transaction passes through it. Every movement generates value. The owner of the river profits regardless of which ship succeeds. This is the architecture hidden beneath many of the world's most powerful businesses. They do not compete for individual transactions. They position themselves where all transactions must pass. And once a system controls flow, growth begins arriving automatically. Industrial businesses were built around production. Make something, store it, sell it, repeat. Every additional customer required additional effort, additional inventory, additional logistics, additional risk. Digital marketplaces changed the equation. The platform often owns nothing, yet coordinates everything. It does not manufacture, it orchestrates. It does not transport, it facilitates movement. It does not always create value directly. It creates the environment where value exchange becomes easier. This subtle distinction created one of the most important shifts in modern business. Ownership became less important than positioning, because positioning determines visibility. Visibility determines participation, and participation determines flow. The platform becomes the bridge, the intersection, the gateway, the exchange layer. Every participant enters for their own reasons, yet every interaction strengthens the system. The platform grows not because it produces more, but because more people choose to move through it. The word arbitrage often creates confusion. People associate it with trading, markets, finance, speculation. Architects understand a broader principle. Arbitrage exists whenever a system reduces friction between 2 points. A buyer wants convenience. A seller wants access. An information gap separates them. A platform closes the gap. Value is created, and the platform captures a fraction of that value. This process repeats endlessly across the digital economy. Talent marketplaces, software marketplaces, advertising networks, payment systems, booking platforms, digital exchanges. Each performs the same fundamental function: reducing friction, increasing velocity, capturing a percentage of the flow. The remarkable part is not the transaction itself, it is the architecture surrounding it. Because every successful marketplace eventually discovers the same secret. The greatest opportunity is rarely owning the asset, it is owning the pathway connecting assets together. Every successful marketplace appears simple from the outside. A buyer arrives, a seller appears, a transaction happens. The architect sees something far more complex: 5 invisible systems working simultaneously. The first is the discovery engine. Before value can move, participants must find each other. Search, recommendations, algorithms, categories. Every improvement shortens the distance between intention and opportunity. The second is the matching engine. Finding is not enough. The system must determine who should meet whom. The better the matching, the less friction remains. The third is the transaction engine. This is where trust becomes action. Payments, contracts, verification, settlement. The exchange becomes predictable. Every successful transaction reinforces confidence in the platform itself. The fourth is the trust engine. No marketplace survives without reducing uncertainty. Ratings, reviews, identity verification, fraud detection, dispute resolution. Trust is rarely generated by people alone. It is engineered through architecture. The fifth is the expansion engine. This is where marketplaces become ecosystems. Every completed transaction produces new information. Every interaction improves future matching. Every improvement attracts more participants. Growth begins reinforcing itself. The marketplace no longer scales through effort. It scales through feedback. That is the defining characteristic of a well-designed cash flow engine. Every movement improves the next movement.
Many businesses measure success by volume. How many products were sold? How many customers arrived? How much revenue was generated? Architects monitor a different variable, velocity. How quickly does value move through the system? Imagine two marketplaces. Both process $1 million each month. From the outside, they appear identical. But one completes every transaction within minutes. The other requires days. Which marketplace creates more opportunity? Which attracts more participants? Which compounds faster? The answer has very little to do with the amount of money. It has everything to do with movement. Capital that remains idle creates little value. Capital that circulates continuously generates new opportunities. This is why digital infrastructure obsesses over latency. Milliseconds matter. Approval delays matter. Checkout friction matters. Because every second removed allows the system to complete another cycle. The objective is not merely moving more value. It is allowing value to move more often. Velocity becomes multiplication, and multiplication quietly becomes wealth. The most resilient businesses rarely depend on predicting winners. They depend on serving everyone. A toll bridge does not care which vehicle crosses first. It simply ensures that crossing remains possible. Digital marketplaces operate on the same principle. Every successful seller creates revenue. Every new buyer creates revenue. Every additional interaction strengthens the underlying network. This is why platforms often outperform traditional businesses. Manufacturers compete for individual sales. Marketplaces benefit from the activity of entire industries. As participation increases, the architecture becomes stronger. Not because the company works harder, because the ecosystem begins expanding itself. Eventually, the platform becomes more than a marketplace. It becomes a piece of economic infrastructure. And infrastructure rarely competes on products. It competes on necessity. Every economy obeys gravity. Not physical gravity, economic gravity. Wherever value moves efficiently, participants naturally gather. Customers prefer convenience. Businesses prefer access. Developers prefer integration. Partners prefer predictable systems. Each participant acts independently, yet together they reinforce the same architecture. This is the remarkable property of well-designed marketplaces. Growth stops being a marketing achievement. It becomes a structural consequence. The system develops its own gravity. New participants arrive because others are already there. New products appear because customers already exist. New services emerge because infrastructure already supports them. Eventually, the marketplace stops acquiring growth. It begins attracting growth. That is the transition from platform to ecosystem. And ecosystems possess a remarkable advantage. Every new participant increases the value for everyone else, not through persuasion, through architecture. Because the strongest businesses do not simply move money, they become the place where money naturally wants to move.
If your ambition is to build a resilient business, do not begin by asking what product to create. Ask a more powerful question. Where does value already flow? Which industries exchange information every day? Which communities trade expertise continuously? Which markets still suffer unnecessary friction? Those are not inconveniences. They are architectural invitations. The objective is not becoming another participant. It is becoming the infrastructure that enables participation. Products come and go. Trends appear and disappear. Technologies evolve, but pathways endure. Every transaction simplified creates another reason for people to return. Every connection strengthened creates another opportunity for value to circulate. Do not compete to build the fastest boat. Design the river that every boat must eventually navigate, because the owner of the pathway often outlasts the owners of the products traveling through it.
History remembers the companies that built extraordinary products. The future may remember those that built extraordinary pathways, because products generate transactions. Pathways generate economies. Every marketplace begins as a simple connection between buyer and seller, supply and demand, problem and solution. But when that connection is refined, strengthened, and repeated millions of times, it becomes infrastructure. An infrastructure quietly reshapes markets, not through force, through flow. The greatest fortunes are rarely created by owning everything. They are created by standing where everything eventually passes. Because products create value, systems distribute value, but infrastructure decides where value ultimately accumulates. This is Nexera, decoding systems, architecting wealth.